If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. John Quincy Adams, 6th U.S. President. All right. Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Liberty Dad Podcast, a discussion on politics and culture. I'm your host, DL, America's most objective libertarian. If you're tuning in live, thank you so much for giving me your time so early. Now, normally, I would do a show on some sort of topic, but today we're doing something a little different. We had intended to initially do this interview this evening. However, as we were having a conversation, we determined it would be better to do it in the morning for the both of us. So here we are. I will bring on Stephen Nekhaila, the current LNC chair, Libertarian National Committee chair, and we're going to discuss all things related to him being the chair. So let's welcome third time participant to this show. It's the third time. He came on once as a brand new dad, once as a somewhat seasoned dad. I mean, you're always being seasoned as you go along. And then now he's on as chair, where I'm going to ask him the tough questions, and hopefully they're not too tough and make him angry. Well, we'll see. All right, let's bring him on. Stephen, how are you?
Good. How you doing, DL? Thanks for
Very
having me
well.
on for the third time.
Absolutely. As I was saying before the show, this is your third time on. I don't even think I'm trying to remember if I've had somebody else on even twice. And I don't think that's the case. So, but I can guarantee you are the only person to have come on this show 3 times. So I'll have to go and dig in my archives and see who else has been on here more than once. So, but let's dive into it. So you are now the chair of the Libertarian Party, the National the National Libertarian Party. So how does it feel to have so much power?
Well, it's a big responsibility, and it's a huge honor. And I've been on the board for, almost 10 years. So the victory felt more transitional. You know, there was like a 24-hour, like, oh, this is great high. And then it was really a matter of, okay, let's get to work and go to business. But it is a huge honor and a huge privilege, and I don't take it lightly. Of course, your audience may or may not know I was LPF chair for a number of years. I've been on the national committee since 2016. Been a part of the LP Florida since 2014. In my business career, I'm a Wendy's franchisee, 12 units. We also have the Island Grill in Isla Mirada. We just expanded to a second location. the Dairy Queen in Tavernier, the movie theater. So plenty of stuff to keep me busy. And I think that unique business experience is a good segue into being ahead of a national political party,
Mhm.
especially with where we're at right now and what we need to do with bringing operations up to spec and making sure that we are as efficient as possible.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's been great. It's been a just a whirlwind almost 2 months now as chairman of the Libertarian National Committee, and it's been really interesting. It's been a really interesting experience. Pretty much more or less settled into the role now, into the rhythm,
Mhm.
and yeah, we hope to accomplish a lot over the next few months. There's no other choice but to. So
Right.
I'm sure we'll get into
Oh,
that.
oh yeah, absolutely. So let me ask, because if I heard you correctly, you have 12 franchises for Wendy's. So that's 12 locations.
Mhm.
And then you had two other islands, something or other. I don't recall the names of them. So you oversee 14 restaurants. Okay.
Correct.
And then you're a relatively new dad still. Um, and then now you're the chair of a national party. So how do you find the time in all of that?
Well, luckily for me, we do have good managers.
Mhm.
So as long as we've got good people in the right places for the restaurants, that helps a lot. Um, that allows me to be where I need to be. We have a new district manager in the Carolina, Virginia area.
Mhm.
I'm obviously down here in the Keys, so basically the Florida market is my main market that I oversee personally. But it's a juggling act for sure. I was joking with my vice chair Paul Dar that after if we want to retire from the LNC, we should go to the circus and become jugglers because there's just a lot. It's a
Right.
lot. But I think also that's given me the ability to switch gears quite quickly. Um, and I think it's all about prioritization and being organized as possible. Um, and waking up early and having a schedule and spending every waking moment as efficiently as possible, which is quite demanding. Um, but you learn to make it work. And
Mhm.
my daughter probably takes up a third of my time at least. She
Right.
wants all my free time, right?
Yep.
Which is great. She wants to be with her daddy, and then the same thing with the businesses and everything else, and relationships and whatever. So it is a demanding job. I think it's interesting because chairman of the Libertarian National Committee has always been either somebody who's a businessman, an attorney, or they're retired typically.
Mhm.
And I think that demographic has always been that way because these are people that typically have flexibility in their schedules. They're not
Mhm.
working 9 to 5s. And there's also some professional experience there typically. So yeah, in order to answer your question, I don't know how I do it. I know my father, he was of that mentality where he always did a million things, and I guess you just have to find somebody who's really busy to be able to get things done.
Right. So what motivated you to run in the first place against the incumbent at that time? So that would have been Angela in 2024, for which, by the way, I did support you. You know that. And just for the audience here, I definitely supported you. And but what was what was it
Sure,
that motivated you? What did you see and say, I need to do this?
absolutely. I knew I probably wasn't going to win. I hopped in probably 2 weeks out from the actual election.
Hmm.
So it was a last minute decision. I've been thinking about it for a little while. I knew there was no chance I was going to win just because it was so late in the race against Mark Rutherford and Angela. But I did want to make an appearance and I did want to make a few points. And Angela and I, we've had a lot of differences professionally in our service together. Um, Obviously up to the most recent events, but even
Hmm.
prior to that, we had a lot of differences in terms of management style and things that I would rather see, or the way things are done, or the way things were approached. And so we've kept most of that, private in the background as professionals for the most part. And while we've had our differences and our spats for sure, we typically enjoyed a good working relationship when it came to getting things done.
Hmm.
So that was good. But I did feel like I needed to put my name out there, to talk about a few things, and to essentially, I wasn't happy with some things at the time, and so that's why I decided to run.
Okay.
And then, yeah, and then most recently, of course, I think those same issues came to a head, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and offer myself up as sacrifice here and be the guy to run, and ultimately was successful.
Got it. So libertarians like to argue over the purpose of the party.
Sure.
What will the purpose of the party look like under your leadership? That is, what kind of things will you be focusing on um, from here until at least the end of this particular term?
So, in my opinion, the Libertarian Party is designed for three things. One is running candidates. We have to gain power in order to be, in order to see our vision through as libertarians, and to see our philosophy move forward.
Mhm,
So that's number one. Number two would be legislation, and policy changes. So pushing policy changes, getting things like Defend the Guard passed forward. This is something that we want to see move forward legislatively throughout the country.
mhm,
As an example, single issue coalitions. We did some stuff with anti-war last term,
mhm,
um, and being a voice on policy. And then number three is spreading the political philosophy of libertarianism. So actually going out and being evangelists and apologists for our philosophy, just like the Socialist Party USA talks about socialism all around the world or whatever. Libertarianism is a philosophy that we want to spread culturally, and we want people to identify as libertarians. So those are the three purposes of the Libertarian Party, in my opinion. That's
mhm,
our trident, right? And so, number one, back in August of 2024, the board came together and we decided we were going to make an agreement. We were going to, sorry about that. We were going to be fielding 500 libertarian candidates over the next few years. I think that's a key operation. Um, in order for us to do what we need to do, we need to start looking at local level elections, not your pie in the sky elections, but real winnable races, and get libertarian candidates in those seats to run for those races. And if we can get libertarians in office, it's a lot easier to defend than to attack. So if we can build up some regional dominance or get a libertarian city council elected, then now we have a work product that says, okay, look what libertarians are doing as elected officials in this space. Do you want to invest in that? Do you want to see more of that? And you want to lower taxes, and do you want your civil liberties protected, and do you want them to protect you from the state and federal overreach, et cetera, et cetera. So focusing on winnable races has always been key. That gives us a proof of work. And then as for the single issue stuff, I think in my opinion, it's fine and it's great to look at other organizations or even other political parties and say, where do we align and what can we move forward on together,
mhm,
and try to pass a narrative along. One thing in my messaging you may have seen is that I try to take something that's happening, maybe that Trump is doing or what have you, like the Department of Education being downsized, and say, yeah, this is great. We want to see more of this. But we also don't believe in any public education. We want it to all be private education. We believe private education is best for various reasons. So you're always injecting a narrative into the the equation that's very libertarian, rather than just borrowing a narrative from the Republicans or Democrats and saying, well, we agree with that and we're going to borrow the narrative on this issue. It's like, well, you have to create your own narrative and make it uniquely libertarian and make that point in order to draw people in and to change their mind and move the Overton window. So anyway, that's kind of a little bit of a bird's eye view of what I think the party should be doing. And by the end of this term, I'm hoping that we should be growing membership to a high degree,
Hmm.
while we attack those goals and move forward on them, and measure those goals too, by the way, and make sure this is something we're actually heading towards, that we can measure month to month and see if we're on the right path or not.
Okay, sounds good. And we'll dive into some more of
Okay.
some of that in a little bit here. I don't really want to spend our time comparing you to Angela, what she did do or didn't do or whatever. She's no longer chair. You are. But I do have some questions about succession that
Sure.
I think are important. So, Angela, for better or for worse, she made a connection with the Trump, RFK, and Vivek teams. Did she connect you with anybody from those teams to help keep that relationship active?
Um, I haven't spoken with her about any of those connections. Excuse me. Um, I don't know anybody from the Trump team or the Vivek team.
Hmm.
I do know people on the RFK team, and right now I think that's probably the most fruitful relationship,
Hmm.
for a variety of reasons, and probably the closest to our beliefs, especially with Nicole Shanahan, going out there and openly identifying as being a libertarian, and I think she's got the bug. So, and she's got a great. There's a lot of great people in that team and in that world that are libertarian leaning
Hmm.
or straight up libertarian. So I don't know. Obviously, if I'm always open to having conversations with anybody. Um, I think it's important to identify, especially when it comes to Trump, that we're adversaries ultimately, but doesn't mean we have a conversation just because of our political allegiance, right? That's just the reality. Doesn't mean doesn't mean it's good or bad. It just means that's the political reality. But yeah, I'd be open to conversation. I don't have those connections. No.
Okay. And then so she didn't reach out to you, you didn't reach out to her. What connections have you made, any other external connections to the LP since and I know it's been a short time. I'm just trying to
Mhm.
get a feel out there, you know, so people don't flip out if you don't like the answer or whatnot. But in the couple of months that you've been chair, have you sought to make any external connections with people? External meaning outside of the party.
Sure. Um, That's a good question. I'm trying to think. If I would say we've been partnered with the Kennedy people, so obviously there's connections there that were built up pretty quickly, as we've engaged with the Kennedy Victory Fund, etc. I'm trying to think who else outside the party. I mean, I've been on podcasts and things like that. I think most of the connections are probably media connections,
Hmm.
with CNN and different organizations. Gosh, CNN, Washington Post, The Hill, etc. So there's been more media connections and some good relationships being built up there. But as far as political ones, my main focus has really just been within the party.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, given that, how will you plan to leverage some of our own personalities to advance the party? Do you, or you don't have to tell me specific
sure.
ideas necessarily, but do you have some ideas? And if you do, can they be divulged just yet?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had a good conversation with the Chase campaign.
Hmm.
I've had good conversations with a lot of libertarians within the movement that are high profile libertarians. And there's a lot of conversations and relationships that are underway to try to maximize everybody's engagement,
Hmm.
whether it's a big donor or somebody who we all know, in order to help the LNC and help the party ultimately. So yes, I'd say the last 60-ish days has mostly been on the phone.
Hmm.
It's been relationship building. It's been talking to people. It's been seeing what people can do to help, volunteer their time, or or to come and work in some way. So absolutely. I mean, to kind of give an idea of what I've been up to for the last 60 days, a
Hmm.
lot of it has been talking to, figuring out where our opportunities are, figuring out where we're at, and then, you know, coming up with solutions and plans and goals and finding the right people to fill those spaces.
Mhm.
So it's been a lot of conversations with not just the board and the LNC, but a lot of people in the ecosystem, the libertarian ecosystem.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't know if
So
that was big or if that made sense, but I hope it made sense.
no, I get you, and I
Yeah.
recognize that it's only been 60 days. You got to get in, you got to get a lay of the land, identify what you have to work with. If you need to make any immediate changes, based on leadership differences, then that's it's kind of like when the president comes in and like 3 days later he's revoking or not revoking, but rescinding uh, past executive orders, stuff like that. So they haven't really got into the meat per se of their term. But speaking of rescinding things, immediately after taking the chair role, you ruled that the lifetime membership given to Trump by your predecessor Angela was out of order. So why did you focus on that like immediate? Why was that one of the top things that you focused on?
I think it was inappropriate to have been given in the first place. I First off, I don't believe it was in order procedurally,
Mhm.
um, and second off, I think what that materially did was it drove a wedge into the libertarian membership unnecessarily,
Mhm.
and I think we have to tread very carefully and be very clear that the Libertarian Party is not Republican light. We're not a Republican JV team. And even though there's some things that Trump does that we may agree with, or there's some positions that he takes either culturally or politically that some libertarians are aligned with, that does not mean he's a libertarian.
Right.
And to say, well, look, we're going to offer Trump uh, a membership to say he's one of us because he was at our convention, it sends a lot of mixed messages. And I don't think it's healthy for the party. I actually think, quite frankly, that it's naive to believe that um, the Republicans, or especially even the president, just because he granted our movement a transaction of freeing Ross, which was a great thing, and to Angela's credit, I will. She helped with that, making sure that happened and bringing that directly to President Trump's attention to get Ross Ulbricht freed, which I think was a great victory and a great thing. But that does not mean that our relationship with the president or any president that's not a libertarian is anything more than a tenuous transactional relationship. The reality is that Donald Trump freed hundreds of political well, I would just have to say political prisoners, which I think Ross was, but he pardoned a lot of people, hundreds of people, and these are conversations that go over for a long time. A lot
Mhm.
of these are political. Some of them are, based on donors. Some of them are based on X, Y, and Z. And to think that we have this newfound leverage and newfound influence, and that we have a seat at the table, I just don't think it's true. It's kind of like the relationship between the United States and Russia and China. I guess more now U.S. and China.
Mhm.
We trade and we do certain things, but at the end of the day, we're still adversaries. And
Right.
to believe that the Republicans respect the libertarian vote, I think, is extremely naive. They want our vote. They want our people. They would rather absorb the libertarian movement into the Republican Party or the Republican sphere rather than actually listen to us or think we have, give us any kind of real concessions. And so I wanted to make sure that there was no question as to where we
Gotcha.
stood on that issue. And we could go into more detail on that, but
Well,
real power and real influence is going
the
to take
only the only further follow-up that I would have is just to so whether people like it or not, Trump did come to our convention. He made a promise explicitly to the libertarian crowd, and then he delivered on it. Now, I will at least say when it comes to delivering on promises, the one that seems to be the most unambiguous, that's generally pretty well accepted and not argued about, is freeing Ross. And that's, you know, it's a big deal, I think, that Ross got freed, but I think it's also in its own right a big deal that a presidential candidate who went on to become president, who is not a libertarian, promised libertarians something explicitly, and then actually delivered on it. So my question is, shouldn't he be given some sort of recognition for doing that? Because that seems kind of historic in itself. Like, we've never gotten, to my knowledge, a concession from an opposing candidate who then delivered on it. Or I don't even think we've gotten a concession in the past.
I think this is the first time ever that number one, a candidate of the major two parties showed up at our convention,
Mhm.
had a dialogue with our people, and actually came through on a promise. I mean, most presidents will make promises to their own constituents and not come through. So, to Trump's credit, I think it does show a certain level of integrity that he did come through with that promise. I just want to make sure that we as libertarians understand that, promises made, promises kept. Yes, but that doesn't translate to the authority some people think it gives us. And I want to be really, really honest about that because there's a lot of work that needs to put in to really be where we want to be when it comes to having the leverage we think we have. And I can go more into detail that in a minute. But absolutely, I mean, I think Trump does deserve the credit. I think the movement also deserves the credit in helping to get Ross freed. And I don't have Trump derangement syndrome. I also don't have Trump worship syndrome either. I think, I think, my daughter's here and she's, I knew it would only take some time. That's why I wanted to be here early. Hold on one second.
All right, so we're going to take an operational pause, folks, while Stephen works out with his daughter. Good times here on the Liberty Dad podcast. We're always family friendly here, no matter who is on the show. If their child shows up, whether it's their child or my child, we are a family friendly show. So no big deal here. This is not going to be one of those restaurants where we're like, hey, no kids. This is not one of those weddings where we tell people like, don't bring your kids. We will work through it. We're going to be as family friendly as we can here. So give us give Stephen a moment. In fact, what I'll do is I'll take this opportunity to go to a quick intermission. So Stephen, I'm going to set you backstage for just a moment while you get things worked out over there, and we will go to a quick intermission. So let's do that. Let me see here where we go. Boom. Hey, Liberty fam, do me a favor. If you enjoy the show, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button to my channel. And for the really serious folks out there, I want you to hit that bell so that you never miss an episode. By the way, if you want to support the show, head over to libertydad.locals.com and sign up. For $5, you can be part of this show. There, I'll engage supporters of the show. We'll discuss topics that you want me to talk about, response videos that you would like to see, or anything related to the show. And I'll even have a monthly subscribers only episode. By the way, I'm always looking for dads to join me for Dad Talk. That's my series where I invite everyday dads on to talk about what's important to them in the context of being a dad. No argument, no debate, and dads choose the topic. It's my way of raising dad voices. If you're a dad or you know a dad who has something to say, let's get connected. Episodes air live on Friday mornings or Friday evenings, whichever works best for dads. All right, let's get back to the show. All right. I think you are now ready, good sir.
Yes, it's the
All right.
dad portion of the podcast.
So let's see. I was trying to get our names in there. I forgot about the names. There we go. We got some names in it. Okay, so let's continue on where we were. So let's see. Let me take a look at my notes here. So, what is the message to a divided LP? Because we're kind of divided, and I'm not going to try to point fingers or care about that for the purposes of this particular show. But we have, the outgoing chair, and then you have like slightly different views. You rolled back, or I don't want to say if you, I don't know if I want to call it rolled back, but you rescinded the. We were just talking about rescinding the uh, the lifetime membership given to Trump, or supposedly given to Trump, or however that was supposed to have worked out. But what's your message going forward for the divided LP for the different sides?
Absolutely. You know, at the end of the day, it's a matter of what are our goals and where are we going. And I
Mhm,
think that the many factions of the Libertarian Party, and we've always been a tenuous coalition of factions. I think for this, for decades, it's always been that way. You've had the anarchists and the minarchists, the classical liberals. You have the CLC and the Mises Caucus. You've got,
mhm,
and then who knows what the next faction or group it's going to be in the next 4 or 5 years, or whatever. Who, what the makeup's going to be in the future. But I guarantee you, uh, whatever the labels are and whoever the people are, there's going to be factionalism. And I think factionalism typically occurs when we lack a unified vision.
mhm,
That's when people tend to devolve into groups and then they start to look at their own self-interest. And then the fight becomes over, well, who can be in this position of internal leadership rather than who can help us achieve this overarching goal. And if our goals align with the other factions and we can form a coalition, which should be the conversation, how can we work together to achieve it in the best possible way?
mhm,
And get our best people in positions of authority in order to carry that goal out, which should be the conversation. So my vision, and this is something that I would like to think I did pretty successfully in LPF, is we come up with goals, and we go after the goals, and if everybody has a voice in that conversation, then really the only fighting is over, okay, well, how do we achieve the goal as best as possible, and then it's more of a conversation not of factional loyalty or this person's in this faction versus that faction, but either you're doing the work to get to that goal or you're not. And then the problem becomes a different type of problem, right? If there is a problem. So back to your point, we actually had um, a, uh, a a strategy company, W. Mason from Strategist Inc., come to our our meeting in August in Miami last year to help us come up with some some concrete goals. Look at our goal planning for the next few years, and we had come up with those goals. And we're actually having a team meeting this Sunday to go revisit those goals, come up with KPIs, look and
mhm,
reevaluate things, and actually make sure that all of what we're doing, all of the LNC's work is prioritized to actually achieve those goals. So, it's great to have goals, but it doesn't make sense if your goal is, okay, we'll raise membership, but then I'm going to go over here and do something else. Well, actually, we're not doing what we said we're doing. We're just putting it on paper and ignoring it.
mhm,
So, in order to squash factionalism, in order to unite the party, I think it's important that, you know, for me to talk to everybody, for me to, okay, what do you want to see? What do you want to see more of? Where are opportunities?
mhm,
Allow people to participate in a meaningful way towards the unified goals, and to make sure that the goals become the overarching vision, not any kind of factionalism. And I think that's truly what works when you're on a team, um, any kind of team. And so. So we'll see how it goes.
Hmm.
Obviously, there's always going to be conflict. Anytime you have people, there's conflict. I don't know if anybody here has played sports, and but when you're on a sports team, your goal is to get a ball in a net. But you have personalities on a team. You're supposed to work together. Sometimes you fight. Sometimes you bump heads. But at the end of the day, you're supposed to work together and train to achieve a common goal, an event, and victory.
Hmm.
And so I kind of see the LNC as in the same light. We're just a bunch of team players, don't always get along, but if you can squash things before they start, issues before they start, interpersonal issues or whatever, it helps to keep the team stable and keep them on task. And that's kind of what I view my job as.
Gotcha. So let's talk about some of those, some goals, because, and I'm going to share this on the screen here. When you, oh, where did it go here? Let's see here. How do we get it? Oh, I think I know right there. Is that working? There we go. Okay. So, it's not going to show everything. So, apologies, folks. See if I can, no, I can't move the windows around. So I don't know how to make that move. I'll figure that out later. But anyway, I'll read it. So this came from the Libertarian Party shortly after you had taken the reins. And this is just a snippet from one of the emails. And it said, Mr. Nekhaila has stated that he will look to achieve the following with the Libertarian National Party. Number one, dramatically increase fundraising to build a stronger infrastructure and support our candidates effectively. Number two, grow membership by implementing data-driven outreach and engagement strategies. Number three, field 500 libertarian candidates across the country to bring real political change. Number four, strengthen state and local affiliates by providing them with resources, training, and direct support. And then number five, build a professional and strategic national party that is results driven and action oriented. So my criticism in a prior podcast, and I didn't spend a lot of time on it. I just said these are not, with the exception of number three, these are not measurable. And I did reach out to you, and I mentioned that to you as well. So when can you expand upon these and quantify them a little bit better? And you don't have to go through all of them necessarily, maybe just a couple.
Yeah, absolutely. And good points. And so I'll start with one and two because I think those are actually the most important:
Mhm.
fundraising and membership.
Okay.
I don't know why I didn't go through, but on the original email, but our goal for membership is 17,500 members, dues-paying members. Right now, we're around 10,000, just north of 10,000. A few years ago, we were 20,000. So we've halved our membership, or at least halved our dues-paying membership over the last several years, at least since COVID.
Hmm.
And we've also halved it quite subsequently our operating budget from around $2 million to about one and a quarter million. Depending on if you view the Kennedy Victory Fund in that, that's helped a lot. But the training wheels are coming off soon. So our goal there is to get to $2 million by 2027, I believe. And so one of the things, and this is actually directly related to this point that this Sunday's meeting is going to be talking about, is what are our goals still for the short term, for the next 3 months or
Hmm.
3 quarters to the end of the year, or even the next 6 quarters until convention, because we've made our overarching goal to 2026, 2028. But what's our actual month-to-month progress going to look like? And so we're coming up with a dashboard to measure progress. Hannah Kennedy, our executive director, is working on that. She actually just gave me a proof yesterday. So this is this is very relevant, which is great. And so it's going to keep the board and probably the members updated. Okay, here's our goals. Are we making progress? Are we not? We can measure it now. And so I believe that membership and fundraising are basically hand in glove. They're the same thing. If you increase your membership, you can increase your fundraising. I mean, sure, I could go and take the sniper approach and try to get 10 people to donate $41,000 and max out the donation every year. And I'm still going to try to do that. But I think it's a lot more feasible to say, look, there's 700,000 registered libertarians in the United States. That doesn't include 20 or 30 states. So, let's call the number closer to 1.5, maybe 2 million registered or self-identified libertarians in the United States. We know who a lot of these people are. We have their names. We can run the data through and get a lot more information about them. and we just need to ask them to become members of the Libertarian National Committee. They probably are registered. A lot of them are actually registered. There's 41,000 roughly libertarians in Florida that are registered. And and different states have different ways that they track their registrations. Why don't we go out to these people, introduce ourselves or reintroduce ourselves? They're already labeled. They're self-labeling as libertarian. All we got to do is make the introduction and say, hey, donate $5 a month to the Libertarian National Committee, or donate $10 a month, or donate $25 a year, and let's get these numbers up. So I've been in conversations with a lot of the original architects of Project Archimedes, which was a late thousands, early 2000s, or sorry, late 90s, early 2000s project that got us $3 million a year and 30,000 members of the Libertarian National Committee. These were dues-paying members. They would equate every dues-paying member to about $100 worth of income. So, and that was pretty spot on. They were making about $3 million at 30,000 members. And ever since that time, if you ever look at the chart, you've probably seen it at one point or another. We go from 30,000 registered libertarians, and then it just kind of you see those little spikes every time there's an election season, and it's just been going down over the last 25 years, quarter century. And I think from an operational perspective, we just haven't made membership growth a priority for whatever reason. And I don't know why, but we just have not made membership growth a huge priority. And it probably, maybe especially so since around 2018, 2020 era is when it really stopped to be a priority completely. And then it just, in the last 4 years, it's just dropped off as a real program to try to recruit. So that's what I'm trying to bring back. And so we're, Paul, my vice chair, Paul Dar, and I have been in a lot of conversations with a lot of smart people from that era to try to reverse engineer, okay, what worked? How can we bring that into the 21st century? What tools do we have to, now it's not just direct mail anymore. You have tons of data now, tons and tons of data. You can get data on anybody. You can probably know if they're a dog person or a cat person, what their favorite color is. You can send texts. You can go on social media. You can go on Google and Meta and all that stuff. You can send emails. You can send direct mail. So every tool in the toolbox we're going to exploit to figure out what works and how to get people re-engaged with the party. And I think that comes, you have to be able to offer some value. You have to let them know you're there. But to say that, we have 330-ish million people in the United States. If, 0.1% of those people join the Libertarian Party, it's still going to vastly increase our our ability to do things and our base. And I really believe that in order to hit 500 libertarians running for office, we need to do these recruitment campaigns because we need more people. At the end of the day, and I'm going to make a point that I think is really important. The makeup of the Libertarian Party is going to change over the next 5 to 10 years if we're successful in this membership campaign and it's working. Because that means the actual makeup of the Libertarian Party, the demographics are going to change as we recruit more people in. And I think that's healthier overall for the libertarian ecosystem to get more people engaged. It's going to fill us with a lot more fresh blood, people, full of piss and vinegar who are going to go out and, put me in, coach, go run for office, take leadership roles. I was joking on the Black Powder podcast last week. It's like, some of us are like the old timers. We're kind of smoking cigarettes in the back on our third shift. And we've been doing this for a long time where the new guy comes in and is just like, they're full of energy. We need to replenish our ranks. We need the bodies. We need the candidates. We need the dollars. And all those problems go back to membership. So I think membership growth is the single most important thing we could be working on right now. And that is, I think the single biggest opportunity and the best thing the Libertarian National Committee can be doing is getting new members in. And that's going to help the state parties. It's going to help the local parties. And then as we shift focus more so in 26 and 28 towards candidates, is directly going to be related to, okay, well, now we can identify the races, we have the candidates.
Mhm.
We're going to be working on getting states on a shared membership program where basically, if a member signs up through our website, we want to be able to say, oh, you're a member of LP Florida? Well, cool. Do you want to also donate to the LP Florida? And then it's a shared membership program so that while we're doing the work of finding people, states can benefit by actually getting people to sign up for their state party at the same time. Which, by the way, if you look at how many people are dues paying members for, I think, Texas and Florida and California, it's like over 1,000. And if you look at how many people donated to the state party in the last year, it's probably a couple dozen, at
Mm.
least in Florida. And Texas, it might be hundreds, and California might be hundreds. I don't know. But at least when I was Florida chair, this was true. It could be different now. So to put that into perspective, not having a shared membership program, you could 10 or 20x your actual dues paying members just by being a part of that program. So that's something we're going to be pushing for here in the near future.
Mhm.
But my overall long-term vision is that the national party is the tide rising that's going to raise all the ships.
Mhm.
And, we'll be the ones that obviously have the biggest budget. But if we're reinvesting that budget into things that actually matter to the states, that the states can sign on to, and we're recruiting and we're finding candidates and we're finding technology and we're getting investments by
Mhm.
big donors and things like that, then there's actually a reciprocal relationship there, and not just, all the resources are going to national, screw you guys.
Right.
We're going to go after our own people because we don't agree with what you're doing. And I'm hoping that changes.
Gotcha. So let me ask you real quick. When it comes to that first item that said it ended with support our candidates effectively. So you build the membership, you improve the fundraising, right? So you've grown the membership. Maybe you do get the 500 libertarian candidates, or maybe you even come close, whatever. Um, what does supporting candidates effectively look like in specific from the national party?
So, Project Decentralized Revolution is the official project that we're rolling out.
Hmm.
And essentially, the specifics are focusing on identifying local level candidates, finding the right candidates to run those positions, and then investing in the technology so that they can use to actually run their campaigns. We're investing $3,000 a month into voter gravity. Uh-oh, I might have a little one that needs her
All right.
daddy. And so that is something that's definitely going to be a direct benefit. Come here. Oh, oh. I know. What happened? Do you want to say hello to Dio? She's been on a lot of podcasts lately. Might have to take care of her for a second, and then be right back.
Sure, absolutely. All right. So while he's taking care of his daughter, hope you guys are enjoying the show. Hope the questions are, tough and satisfying to you guys to give you an idea of who is Stephen Nekhaila, if you don't know who he is. If you're curious, like, okay, what direction is he going to go? Are we switching gears entirely like we did back in Reno, back in 2020? Or is this just like a continuation of things, but with a slight twist? Hopefully those kind of questions are asked. If you have questions in the chat, make sure, that you would like me to ask, throw them in the chat. I will try to ask them, provided that they're relatively relevant. I mean, don't try to ask me a gotcha question, or, some question that's kind of like unrelated to anything that we're talking about. But go ahead, throw those in there. And then when he comes back, we will resume having a conversation. So we were talking about Project Decentralized Revolution, PDR. Let's see. It looks like he might be coming back. All right, there we are.
All right.
All
There
right.
we go.
All right. So you were discussing Project Decentralized Revolution, and so you were just getting into what it was and how that's going to answer the question of what does it mean to effectively support candidates.
Right. So trainings, voter. I think I talked about voter gravity briefly. That's
Mhm.
basically a candidate software suite that we get at a very reduced rate because we're paying for it from the national party, and then we're also States can sign on, counties can sign on.
Mhm.
They use Aristotle data, so you can actually use that as in order to upend information. So if you have like your county's supervisor of elections, for instance, has a list of candidates or list of candidates, a list of constituents. You can run that through, find out all about them. Oh, this person's interested in this single issue, that single issue. This person registered to vote this way. So you can tailor your messaging, do texting, do all kinds of stuff with that data. So that's a really important tool. Our municipal candidates, depending on who you ask, win 33% of the time. I've also heard statistically it's 50% as
Mhm.
of a couple of years ago. And I think obviously the chances go up the more prepared you are. But at a minimum, it's 33% of the time we will win those municipal elections.
Mhm.
Um, and the idea is, to also identify races that are low hanging fruit races in a state and to recruit candidates for those specific races. So if we know and I can tell you, like in Florida, in Okeechobee, like there are city council positions that are unopposed. There's a lot of places where there's literally, I mean, you can't even find the race
Mhm.
because nobody's run for that election in years. Back in 2018 in Florida under Operation First Step, that was the case where many elections that we ran as libertarians in Florida, um, they were unopposed, or in some cases they were always unopposed. And as soon as we put somebody in, a Republican or Democrat came in to try to compete with us because they
Mhm.
didn't want to let us get our teeth in. And so, um, and so it's a matter of identifying the races, finding the candidates, supporting them, making sure the state's involved, making sure their candidate support committee is involved,
Mhm.
and then after they've gone on and they've won, then hopefully we could actually have a sort of coalition of elected libertarians, so they're not all islands, and talk about legislation and talk about what can we do as libertarians governing to put more libertarian style legislation out there, or to roll back government, or whatever the case may be. There is a document somewhere that goes into a bit more detail, but I
Mhm.
think those are the most important pieces of that program.
Gotcha. We're getting toward the end of our time, and I know that you got to go and be a dad. So let's end it on this question to you. It's 2026. We're at our national convention, right? Regardless of whether you run for reelection or not, what should members judge you on? That is, what is the measure of success for your time as chair? We will look back and we say, he did a great job or he's a total failure. How do
Mhm.
we measure that?
Well, I think first off, you ever see those billboards that like say "Do not text, arrive alive"?
Mhm.
I think that's the theme of this year is arrive alive, get to convention alive, and hopefully be thriving by the time we get there. I think it'll be very clear to the members. Take a look at those goals. 17,500 libertarians by, 2026, or 2028 rather. $3 million by 2027, I believe it is. And we're going to be revaluing these goals this weekend and breaking them down, annualize them month to month to see what our progress is. But the reality is, I mean, our membership levels are on a downward trend.
Mhm.
If in 2026 they're on an upward trend, if our financial situation is on an upward trend, um, then those are the fruits to judge me by, because that's how I'm judging myself.
Mhm.
Quite frankly, I think about it every single day. How are we going to inch towards those goals and make that 1% progress every single week, where we are in a much better place down the road, and we look back and go, wow, how did we get here?
Right.
Um, so take a look at the data.
Would you,
Um,
and you're going to publish that data, correct? And the goals,
yeah,
the
it's
metrics, and say, hey, here's the numbers we're trying to hit. Here's the data. Here's where we are so that people can see it.
Yeah, we'll probably release the dashboard information
Mhm.
once we get it developed. But the membership data and the fundraising data is already public. But I think what I'd like to do is publish the LNC dashboard data at some point, or at least portions of it that are valuable to the membership and to the people at home to see. Hey, we're making progress. Like, please keep donating.
Right.
Um, We don't really have a choice. I think this is really a pivotal moment, and there's no like we're burning the boats. We have to be successful at this.
Mhm.
It's pivotal, and I'm going to do everything I can in my power to make sure that we are growing membership and fundraising. So that's my personal goal, and that's certainly how I'm judging myself. So
Would you, so in terms of an upward trend, because I like things that I can count,
sure.
would you commit to an upward trend that is a trend of no less than 6 months by the time the next election for LNC chair comes about?
No less than 6 months
Yeah, because
of
if like
oh,
if
you mean like
yeah, like
months of upward
if
trend.
yeah, if you had like 2 months of, 2 good months, someone might go, "See, upward trend." And I'm like, I don't know, you just had a couple good months." So I'm like, would you commit to at least 6 months of showing, an upward trend prior to, the next LNC or the next Libertarian Convention, National Convention?
I think that's fair. I think that's a fair commitment. I think that if this project is successful, then my hope is once we get it going, that every month is an upward month, or at the very least, I mean, membership wise, upward, and then really triaging the financial situation where we can stop the arterial bleeding and put a tourniquet on and just start to patch them up. It's like, all right, we're stable. All right, now let's get a splint on, and let's move on to you know this issue or that issue until we're really walking and we're healthy again. So I think trailing 6 months of upward trajectory, I think it's very fair. Yeah, at the minimum, I think that's achievable.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Give everybody your final words, and then
Sure.
I'm gonna set you backstage. If you got to go, you got to go. That's fine. And if you're there when when the show fully is closed, then we can chit chat, what have you. But final words.
Um, I want to thank everybody for being on, being a part of the Libertarian Party. If you've been off for a while, head over to lp.org, sign up for the newsletter. You don't have to change your party registration to become a member, but of course, I always encourage it and appreciate it. Donate $25 a month, invest in what we're doing, and you can follow me on X, Stephen Nekhaila, follow the party, and I want to thank you for having me on for the third time, DL. Maybe it'll be a fourth here in the future.
We'll see. We'll see. Who knows? Racking these up. All right, I'm gonna put you backstage real quick. We'll go to intermission, and then do what you got to do if you can stick around or whatnot, whatever the case is. All right, folks. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you enjoyed watching Steven. Make sure you follow him on social media, like he said, and then keep an eye on him and hold him accountable. So let's go to our closing. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this episode informative and inspiring. Be sure to catch me Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. for an informed discussion on politics and culture. Make sure that you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, or if you prefer my Rumble channel, you can go to youtube.libertydad.com, or you can go to rumble.libertydad.com. While you are there, let me know how I'm doing by leaving me a comment. You can also become part of the community by heading over to libertydad.locals.com. Remember, if you're a champion of liberty, your business is people and your product is liberty. I want you to have a great week. Catch you next time. But for now, I'm out.